Today's November 15th, 2023. Current Bitcoin price is $37,505.
Welcome to the BitBite podcast, your source for news and information about Bitcoin and the cryptocurrency space. This podcast is meant for educational and entertainment purposes only and is not financial advice.
What's going on, Rick?
Oh, just another day. How about yourself, Hans?
You know, it is an awesome Wednesday as we head into Thanksgiving week. And I think it's funny because we did a kind of a misrecording that you won't hear, prior to the beginning of the show, and the price of Bitcoin is fluctuating so much right now. Like it was 37,400, and then it was 37,500. So those numbers are shifting.
Bitcoin lately has been it's been moving.
It has been moving
back and forth.
Yeah. So just to kind of bring this back, we did a purchase. I think, was it October 27th when we did the deal?
I would have to look at the date. October 27th. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So that was for $3,000, and as of today, that would be worth $3,319.55. So between now and the previous episode that we had done, which was on November 10th, you made about $18.
Yeah,
give or take some change. So we'll keep tabs on that as we kind of continue to progress through this. I'm going to just say the beginning of this new bull market, but yeah. We had some news that came out on CPI, and it came out at 3.2%. So first off, tell me what your thought is on that.
Well, I've been saying the past few episodes that it just feels like gaslighting. All the numbers we get for everything from the government, it's lies. Mm-hmm. I mean, I'm looking at things though. I mean, energy prices did kind of come down a little bit. I mean, oil was a little hot earlier, and then the prices at the pump have come down a little bit. So, I mean, it doesn't sound too far off. I just don't know if I really believe it.
Yeah. Oil right now, just because we were talking about that, $75.89. I want to say, because I was in Albuquerque over the weekend, I want to say gas was like $3.01 over there for unleaded. So obviously we haven't seen that kind of a drawdown here locally, but it is starting to move down at least.
Yeah.
In a slightly better direction. But I mean, it's still, you've got to remember, we go back to, that's 3.2% from the previous year, from the same time frame, right? Like, so it's still not great.
No.
Both were below the Wall Street estimates, sparking a major rally on Wall Street. Excluding volatile food and energy prices, the core CPI rose 0.2% and 4%, against the forecast of 0.3% and 4.1%. The annual rate was the smallest increase since September of 2021. The flat reading on the headline CPI came as energy prices declined 2.5% for the month, offsetting a 0.3% increase in the food index. Following the report, traders took any potential Fed rate hikes almost completely off the table, according to the CMA Group data. One thing that I thought was funny, I don't know if you've seen this yet or not, but Biden's talking about inflation and how it has nothing to do, the inflation has nothing to do with the government.
Yes.
Yeah.
Deficits don't matter.
No, it doesn't matter that we're spending trillions of dollars and then we have trillions of interest, Yeah, doesn't matter. None of it matters.
Yeah. Just thinking about this, you know what we should do? The compounding interest. Mm-hmm. We should actually try and go back through the previous interest rates and see what the past 2 year, the compounding interest, how much inflation have you seen in the past 2 years?
Well, and I read something really interesting about that the other day. as to like a big reason why we're probably going to see rate cuts sooner rather than later. I mean, I know Wall Street's like just all, oh yeah, but they're going to start cutting rates probably in the spring. And I think this kind of coincides with the reasoning behind why the Bitcoin halving cycle is the way that it is that the government has to I guess they have to refinance their bulk of their loans every 4 years. It coincides with the presidential elections. So if they have to reconsolidate here pretty soon and the interest rate stays as high as it is, they're going to be in trouble because that interest payment is going to go through the roof. It's already through the roof, but can you imagine it now, like with like a 7% interest rate?
Yeah, I mean, 7% on like, 300 grand is going to be kind of rough, but 7% on 33 trillion.
Yeah. Yeah. And I think Moody's actually just set negative again for the United States for their credit rating.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be honest, our government's, they've been paying their payments, but all they're maintaining is the interest payment. They're not like paying anything down on the principal.
No.
The principal is just has been blowing up. And there was talk about potentially, with the Speaker of the House that was newly instated, they were talking about they were looking at potential government shutdowns if they couldn't get a deal through.
Yeah.
And I don't really care if the government's functioning, but I can just see how the interest time bomb could blow up in their face if something like that did happen right now.
Yeah, that would be awful. So and what it was the credit rating agency Moody's Investor Services lowered its outlook on the U.S. government's debt on Friday to negative from stable, citing the cost of rising interest rates and political polarization in Congress. So, from stable to negative. So, I mean, that's it's kind of interesting to see. And then thinking about that, we've talked about the Bitcoin happening every 4 years. It usually coincides with presidential cycles. Kind of curious, like, will they keep interest rates as high as they can right now, or maybe the Fed's going to feel pressured they've got to make a cut?
For sure,
you would think, right?
I would think. I mean, and that's kind of what's been happening. I mean, especially the more the debt grows and the more the interest rates go up, and like you said, if it gets refinanced at a much higher rate, I mean, we're already pretty well insolvent.
Yeah.
That'll just make it that much worse.
Yeah. I don't even know what that would look like. So we'll have to kind of see how that plays out as the rest of this year plays out. I mean, we still have a Fed meeting coming up in December, middle of December. I'm kind of curious. I'm wondering if they're going to stay at this point or if they are going to go ahead and raise one more time. We won't know. That's one thing about our government's monetary policy. We have no idea what they're planning on doing.
Right.
We find out based off lagging indicators, whereas Bitcoin, we know exactly what its monetary policy is.
Yep.
TikTok next block. We discussed this a while back with Michael Burry, and he is actually, it looks like he is canceling his big short that he had in place.
Yeah, the 1.6 billion short.
Yeah. So Michael Burry, famously known for his bold big short wager against subprime mortgages in the early 2000s, has recently offloaded several substantial bearish positions following unsuccessful outcomes. As the founder of the Scion Asset Management, Burry dissolved his put option on major indices and semiconductor stocks during the third quarter, as revealed by regulatory documents. These divestments mark a significant shift, unwinding bets that he had reached a notional value surpassing $1.6 billion earlier this year. And you, like I asked you about this, and you said this before, and I want you to say it again. Tell us about that.
Yeah, there's a phrase in investing that says the markets can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent.
Yeah, and I think he's seeing a lot of the writing on the wall, but yeah, the timing is wrong right now still.
Yep.
Which,
And that's the whole thing. Like I really do trust Austrian economics. They can tell you what's generally going to happen.
yeah.
But if you're looking for a time frame for things to happen on, there is nothing that really
No.
predicts what's happening next.
No, and I think that's one of the things and I mean, props to the people that can do the trading. I just don't ever trust myself. To do something like that with a certain amount of cash, like maybe a small amount I'd be willing to try, but I mean, that's when you put that money on the line, and then it's just like the market's not going to and maybe you do feel really good a couple of times, and then all of a sudden you get shorted bad. I don't know. Yeah,
Yeah, that's the other thing with investors. A lot of them, they get on some crazy win streak, and then all of a sudden they're freaking losing money left and right. They can't win a hand to save their life.
Yeah.
And psychologically, that's got to be really tough.
That's got to be hard, man. And I don't know if I can emotionally divorce myself from the process. I think that would be the hardest thing for me with that. Maybe after a few years of being in the crypto space, maybe I'd be better with it. But I still don't think so.
Well, if you're trading it pretty regularly, you might get pretty good at it, and you might be able to kind of separate it. Well, that's the thing. Either you figure a way to rationally pursue everything and only take chances when the opportunity looks good, or you get taken to the cleaners.
Yeah. I'd be kind of curious to see how many of them just become addicted to the chase of the gain, the win, and how much of them they just keep on chasing it, even if they're wrong over and over and over.
Yeah. No, it sounds exhilarating and frightening at the same time.
Yeah. During this period, Burry entirely withdrew his puts on the S&P 500 and NASDAQ 100 exchange-traded funds, positions that constitute nearly $1.6 billion in total notional exposure, with the major indices remaining robust, surpassing levels from late June when Burry placed these bets. It's probable that these trades either resulted in losses or became worthless. And I think from what I understand, he lost 40%, or when he closed them, it was down 40% from whatever he'd put in. But I mean, going through this here, I think it's the 1.6 billion is what it was looking like with leverage. More than likely, the actual short was only 10 million that was placed, was the actual put. So it's not quite as catastrophic as what it sounds like for him. I mean, 10 million is still a lot. I'd still be, pretty upset if I lost 40% at 10 million. But I think a 1.6 billion, that would have been a huge win. I mean, think about that. $10 million put and you get a 1.6 billion return. That is crazy.
Well, that's a pretty big return on investment.
Yeah, I think it would have been worth the big short at that point, right? And the only reason why I wanted to bring that up is we talked about it in the past, and the market is just acting insane. Like yesterday, the CPI numbers, when they came out, Bitcoin tanked. It did the complete inverse of what the stock market was doing.
Yep.
And now today, obviously, it rebounded, but it was so weird seeing that positive news coming out on Wall Street. And, I want to say the NASDAQ or the S&P, I'm not sure which one it is. One of them is only 6% off of its all-time high again already.
Really?
Yeah.
Well, that's the thing. At least that's the story for 2023, as far as I'm concerned. Bitcoin has done better than most everything else.
Yeah.
It's been going up for the most part, and stocks not so much. And then, of course, the day when they get some good news, they rally and Bitcoin falls.
Yeah.
So it's almost like Bitcoin is the hedge. It is the bet against the dollar.
Yeah.
And everything associated with it.
I mean, and it's been interesting because we've seen, you bring up a good point. We have seen a big decoupling this year over traditional finance within Bitcoin. Because in the past, normally it was kind of lockstep with somewhat of whatever the market was doing, like with the major players within the Dow Jones and stuff like that. But it's been kind of doing its own kind of thing, especially ever since the bank started collapsing.
Yeah, the Silicon Valley back in March.
Yeah.
And, that's 8 months ago now.
Yeah. And there was other banks that have fallen since then. There was a Citizens Bank that fell back east. It wasn't here locally, right? Like not our Citizens Bank, but there was one that fell back east just recently too. My sister messaged me about it. She was kind of freaking out. She thought it was our bank.
Yeah, I would be a little bit weirded out too.
Yeah, I would be nervous. Last thing I wanted to bring up, and this is kind of just a PSA, was any wallets that you may have that may be older wallets that were created before. And when we're talking about these wallets, we're talking about online wallets with crypto exchanges. And sometimes they're, online wallets. Anything that was made before 2016, they're facing risks of attack from backdoors. They're calling the flaw dubbed Randstorm. It's a collection of bugs, design choices, and API changes that increase the vulnerability of Bitcoin's wallets created between the years 2011 and 2015, Unciphered said on Tuesday. And apparently the way they discovered it was somebody had hired them to try and get into his Bitcoin wallet because apparently he forgot the seed phrase and the password. And they were unsuccessful at getting to his wallet, but at the time they were able to find some other backdoors on some of these other wallets. And they did say that it was important to point out this is nothing wrong with the Bitcoin blockchain, but this was something that was wrong with the wallets that were instituted on these websites and how their I guess the number generation for the randomness of it was not random enough. I don't know how that happens, but that's a little bit more technical than what I can do.
Yep. Well, from what I understand, they're truly in digital. There's not really randomness.
Yeah. Right. They try and approximate it.
Mm-hmm. But if you understand like the algorithm of how that's determined, you can actually predict what the next thing will be.
Yeah. So that must have been what they were able to do. It was also found within some Dogecoin wallets. So just as a special announcement, I mean, if anybody's got some older crypto wallets that are out there, you may want to shift them over to a new wallet. It doesn't say anything that this is tied to hardware wallets or anything like that. This is just basically online wallets that were out there. So yeah, that's pretty much all I got. I mean, we had some crazy uproar stuff where there was a false announcement of XRP getting BlackRock filing for a XRP ETF, but that was fake. They did, however, file for an Ethereum ETF, so we'll kind of see how that's going to play out. My guess is that the SEC, like if they give up the Bitcoin one, they may have to do the same thing for Ethereum, or they may wait a little while.
I don't know. Well, everyone's holding their breath for that. I mean, as soon as that does get approved, though, the price of Bitcoin is going to skyrocket.
Oh, dude, it's going to go nuts. Yeah, I mean, if we talked about this in the last episode, we've talked about this a few times. If that ETF gets approved, if they slash interest rates and the halvings takes place, like Bitcoin's going to go parabolic. Crypto's going to go parabolic. You're not going to be able to. Anything you buy will gain in value unless it's absolute junk.
Well, even absolute junk is probably going to gain in value if things go that crazy.
Yeah, if it goes that crazy, because that's typically always how it goes. Is your big time first mover is going to be Bitcoin. After that, it'll start sloshing over to Ethereum, and then from Ethereum, it'll slosh into the altcoins. So, I mean, it's like that waterfall effect, right? Like, if it happens, you'll seem like you're a genius no matter what you touch.
Right.
But I mean,
yeah,
it'll
until the rug gets pulled out eventually.
Yeah, absolutely. So, anyways, that's about all I had for us today. I mean, there's always news going on, but there's not a whole lot of other stuff happening right now. Watch something major will happen tomorrow. And, I mean, hell, maybe the ETF gets approved tomorrow.
I hope so.
That would be nice. But anyways, on our website, We do have the affiliate links where you can get your Ledger or your LPAL. We're still working on bringing you a newsletter, and merchandise soon will be coming, so keep an eye out for that. And also sign up for our newsletter. Please, please, please. Get on there. Get signed up.
You know you want to.
Good stuff. So, thank you for listening.
Bye.